It's Theme Park Thursday Live with Dillos Dudes. Featuring Frank. And Jen.
Oh, good morning. Good morning. Sorry, I'm putting down my copy of The Ride of a Lifetime. This is Theme Park Thursday Live on a Monday, everyone. So glad you could come along. She is Jen.
Hello.
And I am Frank, and we are here to discuss the big news on this Monday morning, and that is, of course, the release of Disenchanted on Disney Plus over the weekend.
Obviously, that's obviously what we're talking about. We are live on YouTube today, and not at Dillos Resort, which is different for us.
Yes.
And I need to drop out for a moment because I'm having audio issues, so I'll be right back.
Well, so happy that you're all here. Don't know. I saw her panicking in the green room. To be fair, there was a little bit of panic. I didn't know what was going on. So we can talk about Disenchanted. I can stall for a little bit here. Well, there she is.
Whew.
Okay, great.
Okay. I was like, I hear us 10 times in my ears. What is happening? Okay.
Speaking of DillosDizResort.com, over there last night, Jen was hosting a little movie chat with the movie being Serendipity, kind of a lead-in to the holiday season when pandemonium broke loose.
We all left the movie chat feeling, that's a really good movie. This is great. This is so much fun chatting along. All of a sudden you go over to Twitter and I'm like, well, that's not true. That can't be true. And then I go over to Google and I'm like, I need backup. Is this actually happening? Is this real?
Yeah, it's Disney Assembled. Good morning. News? What news? Is there news?
Yeah.
I mean, where do we even begin? I suppose we'll just put up the CNBC article because to me, I feel like this is where it all started last week was Jim Cramer on CNBC calling for it. Oh, there he is. Look how handsome he is. Bob Iger is back. Disney, in a shocking late Sunday announcement, said it had reappointed Iger as chief executive effective immediately after Iger's handpicked successor as CEO, Bob Chapek, came under fire for his management of the entertainment giant. Rumor has it that right at this moment, Elton John was singing Goodbye Yellow Brick Road, which I think is kind of ironic. It's
allegedly.
Yeah. I didn't watch the Elton John concert last night, so I'm not really sure. But Jen, I'm just going to start with what were your thoughts?
Whew. Well, we knew, there's been a lot happening on Twitter lately. There's been a lot going on, but this just took over the feed, probably because I follow a lot of Diz Twitter in the community. So that's probably why. I have a lot of thoughts. We have talked for a long time about Chapek here. We have blamed everything on him. We're one of those people. We blame everything on him, even when we know.
We know. And we can elaborate on that as we go into it. Yeah.
But I do feel like that thought, even though we know it's not always just Chapek, it's other people and it's other decisions being made, all that. It did make me think, if you're getting rid of Chapek, everything starts at the top. And we have talked before about there's a team happening here, and that team needs some tweaking. And so are you going to start chipping some more things off the old block there where it's like, and you also have to go, and you also have to go? Because unless Chapek had such control over everyone where like the leadership felt like they couldn't do their job or lead their teams properly or make their own decisions because of him, then I feel like a lot of them have to go too. But if it was the case where he had such a hold on them, then I guess maybe they'll stick around for a little bit. I mean, I have more thoughts. I'll pause there to let you talk.
John in the chat here saying, Iger singing, I'm still standing. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And it's true. Uh, Well, I think you touch on a key point right there as it comes to who is underneath, because right, we've had many debates over the past 2 years in particular, but when it comes to well, you can't. I mean, Josh Tomorrow, he's making the parks decisions. Yeah, but if he's making the decisions based on of what the CEO as it's a media company, it's a media company, because a lot of people already are like, look, the parks are going to be the parks. You're going to see everything on the media side get tweaked here, and the parks are going to help funnel the money back into the media. There's a lot of speculation going on.
Yeah.
But I will start with, I agree with you that it wasn't just Chapek. We were seeing other people. You had the PR team disaster last year, early 2021. You had maybe it was early 2022. These years are just going together. The Chapek era at the time is just all condensed into one big 999 days of fun. You had the financial officer with the inappropriate comments regarding food at the parks, and just leave it at that. You had the Disney Plus guy, the media guy, get fired in June, who everyone seemed to like. So there's a lot happening that I feel like, as I pull up The Ride of a Lifetime by Bob Iger, excuse me. Decisiveness and fairness and curiosity are five of his things here. All decisions, no matter how difficult, can and should be made in a timely way. I don't know if the people under Chapek know how to do that necessarily in a timely way. I think there was a lot of misfires, bad timings. They were over the course of these 999 days. So that is a big picture, I think, of what is to come. What is to come in these 2 years of Bob Iger's contract that he has now signed? Because me, just as a personal thing, I'm not a go backwards guy.
Yeah.
I am you got to move forward. But we knew when Chapek used pronouns, pal, Chapek extended his contract the board extended him in the summer. We're like, well, because there's nobody else. There's nobody else right now, because everybody under him wasn't making good decisions either. And what were we going to do? There was no good alternative out there. The only alternative was to go backwards, which may prove tumultuous here in the early going. And good morning to everybody in the chat as we're talking, of course, about the big news this morning, which is Bob Iger's prodigal son-esque return to the Walt Disney Company as CEO after 11 months away from the company, but 999 days as not being the CEO. So I think there's going to be a review. There's going to be some. I don't think the world is going to turn upside down initially, but I think we're not gonna put the halo over Bob Iger's head here either.
Right. Yes,
we know what led up to this. We know what came before Bob Chapek becoming CEO. There were some questions, but in the overall, I guess. This had to be done. I mean, it was a horrible 10 days leading up to this.
Yes.
I mean, even on Thursday, it's coming, but after everything, right? So he was very cheery. Bob Chapek was pronouns. Bob Chapek was very cheery in the report that led to Jim Cramer saying, like, what is happening? Is he not seeing what is going on? And then you had the leak to the Wall Street Journal article about the layoffs, which didn't match up to his cheery disposition. And then you had the ticket price increases for Walt Disney World, and then you had the Disneyland stuff come out, and then on Thursday morning, here's my email for my Disney Plus subscription going up $3 every month, and I was just like,
too much.
Your cheery disposition does not reflect everything that has just happened.
And we talk about that almost every episode, right? That it's the talking out of both sides. It's
Mhm.
things not aligning. I would say in the past 2+ years, maybe 999 days, I don't know if anyone was counting, that, Disney has felt chaotic. And of course, there's a pandemic in the midst of that, right? Oh,
Right.
interesting.
It's already up 8
So
points. It
the
was started
stock
at
is already up.
91.80 and it's up 8. So
Yeah. So yeah, there's a pandemic in the midst of all of that. So of course, things are going to be kind of crazy and all that. I know that we have talked extensively with Lewis about this, but numbers and money are important in any business, right? And Disney has it's a major business, and of course it's important in a business like Disney. However, in this time, you have not properly balanced it with the warm and fuzzies. You have not given us, they've always been raising prices, hotel prices, ticket prices, everything's always gone up. We were talking recently on our episode about cutbacks and how Papa Dillo was talking about that in the 90s. Like things have always been going on. But Disney has also blinded us with the warm and fuzzies and the magic and all of that. And you might say, well, that's a bunch of BS and that's fake. And they're not actually. But you know what? A company like Disney is known for their customer service. It's known for the magic. It's known for family and bringing people together and all of that. And although we have not personally had bad experiences in these past 2 years with Disney ourselves, that part of Disney has kind of been missing because there's just so much going on when it comes to numbers and money, stock prices, ticket prices, everything is just being thrown at us where it's only looking like a business. And I said this 2 years ago, and I continue to believe you cannot have a bottom line guy run an entire company, especially one like Disney, but you can't have it. They have to know what's going on. They have to understand financials, but they can't be a bottom line focused guy. You can't have that in any company because it skews everything else. And poor decisions are made in other places because that's the only focus. And that is what is felt so much in these last 2 years plus years.
Whether you're in the arts or you're in a creative line of work, and that's been my life here for 30 years. But there's often two sides where you feel like, oh, it's a family, it's a mom and pop kind of thing, and then when business decisions start to get made, everyone's like, oh, what happened to mom and pop? And it's like, the business is business. Like that's just how it is. And however it shifts business wise, it affects how the mom and pop side things will get. Because I can tell you, I remember sitting in Mama Melrose's when Disney bought ABC. And people are like, I remember the cast member at the the waiter was like, this could change everything. I mean, we're not going to be mom and pop. And basically not you saying those exact words, but basically like we're about to go corporate. And, at the time I was like, what? And then, but I wasn't paying attention to all the cutbacks and what Euro Disney had done to Disney's decision making throughout the early 90s and everything like that you see on the Imagineering story now. So, this is cyclical, but that has been the problem all along with Bob Chapek, is that he could not be the figurehead for the company. And, I'm sure today, if Michael Eisner, if I saw him for the first time, I'd be like, this ain't the guy. But that's not how he was introduced. He was introduced through the magical world of Disney on Sunday nights on ABC. And he was talking to Mickey Mouse every week. And wasn't that great? You need that guy or woman. I shouldn't phrase it that way.
Need
that person. Thank you very much. To be the face of the company. And even if, and we know Bob Iger is like that. Even if it's going to hit our pocket, you gotta tell us it's a wonderful summer in Orlando rainstorm when it's really somebody peeing on our shoes. Like, it's got, and Bob Chapek wasn't that guy, and he just kept proving it over and over and over again. And I, will question the timing of Bob Iger stepping down in February of 2020,
Mm-hmm.
knowing something that the rest of us wouldn't know for another 2 weeks.
Yes. Yep.
I mean, yes, they're in our Discord connected to Dillos Diz Resort.com. Our friend Lee, with the conspiracy, like this
Yeah.
had to be done. This person had to be put into place
Mm-hmm.
because somebody had to take the hit.
Yeah.
And to that, I say, then why extend him in the summer? Or was just this past 10 days just really that significantly damaging? Because we knew it.
Yeah.
We knew it in the summer. It
Mhm.
wasn't gonna happen. Like this guy isn't the guy. He's growing a beard to try to be that guy. Like
Yeah.
what is he doing? Why are you extending him? Well, there was nobody else.
Mm-hmm.
But then when you get these horrendous decisions the last 10 days,
Yeah.
and are they decisions that have to be made eventually? Probably.
Yeah.
But the way it came about, the timing, we'll go back to the timing,
Mm-hmm.
that is incredibly problematic. And you can even point to D23 being kind of lackluster
Yeah.
overall and
Yeah.
just going like, what's happening? What's going on? Why is it being planned this way? And that's another general arc of Bob
Yeah.
Chapek's 999 days here.
Yeah. Lexi has a good point that it's not just the nickel and diming alone, it's the blatant discussion that people will pay. You need
Mhm.
to raise prices while continuing to throw glitter in my face, so and smiling all the time and saying, "Well, now it's worth it." And that's it, right? Like you're gaslighting us, and that's what a lot of the verbiage that was being used is like, "Yep, we're raising prices, but this is what you wanted." Like, what? I didn't want this. I didn't want Genie Plus. I didn't want Lightning Lane. I didn't want to have
Right.
to pay for fast passes when I never did before.
Right.
Who said that? Who
Yeah.
said that?
It's the people with the money who are looking for exclusivity
Yes.
that's the audience he was listening to.
Yes.
And I'm not saying I don't understand where he's coming from per
Mhm.
se, but again, the approach and the lack of ability to lead the people underneath to craft it and finesse it and to manage it a certain way better than
Yeah.
it was. I'm not saying there's I don't have the answers. I don't have solutions, so I'm only
Uh-huh.
here to complain. That that is, again, going back to the issue, and that is what Bob Iger now has to look at is like, are these the people that can help me finesse and craft things for 2 years to put this company in a better place?
Yes.
And that's a huge question.
Yeah, I mean, I think, and that's the biggest. I think that's the biggest department Iger will have to work with right now is the PR, marketing, communications, because you need to start spinning things a different way to get people to buy in while you're working on all the financial stuff in the background. And I say there needs to be a balance of both, but right now I think you need to go to the extreme a little bit and then bring it back to middle ground. Disney Assembled here saying the CEO who talks price hikes and hiring freezes when the garbage cans are overflowing in the parks is doomed. And, and that has been a lot of feedback as well that, people have had bad experiences with some of the cast members because in defense of the cast members, they feel overworked and underpaid, and more so when they never got the staffing back up. And so you see it in the parks and you see things that are not where they used to be. And then they go, oh, here's more money. We want some more money. And you're stuck on Haunted Mansion for 20 minutes. Oh, it's more money. All these little things that were happening. And you gotta get everything back to like this level playing field again.
We have never we've never projected ourselves as experts here on Theme Park Thursday or any of our recordings here, but Lewis is here saying I will 100% be shocked if along with anything that feels positive, there's going to be some things that change that are really going to cause a different type of angst. Sure, but I mean, look, the to me, he's gonna create perceptions, right? He's
Yeah.
gonna put things, he's gonna announce things first that make us feel better. I mean, if he said tomorrow, the first thing, I know people are concerned about the parks, and the first
Mhm.
thing I'm gonna do is have a team consisting of Joe Rody, Tony Baxter, and anybody else to work with Josh tomorrow on how we can. People be like, I am so happy. He's so like.
Uh-huh.
It doesn't have to do with money. It doesn't have
Yeah.
anything to do with our pockets. It doesn't have
Yeah.
to do, but the idea that he's looking out for us, even if he's not,
Yeah.
he's going to create perceptions.
Yeah. Which is kind of, goes along with this too, of like, you want to bring back some of those Imagineers that have left. Yeah, instead for saying anyone check on Joe.
Right. Exactly. I bet that's a big thing, and I think earlier in the we're still talking, is Josh tomorrow the next guy, because one, he's not there yet,
Yeah.
and two is we talk about tomorrow because he does have that swagger that would be the face of the company, right? Yeah,
Mhm.
we think he could engage an audience in a way that would make the audience feel good.
Yeah.
I think what we've learned about Josh tomorrow here is he also knows how to play the game. Bob Iger is a big political machine, and we
Mhm.
could get into politics if we need to, because that's
Yeah.
definitely a big chief component of this whole thing.
Yeah.
But I think tomorrow knew how to play the game the right way for Bob Iger's game, and he knew how to play the game for Bob Chapek's game. But
Yeah.
that also left him a little exposed here in those 2
Mhm.
years, because those are two very different people. So
Yeah.
if tomorrow is the next guy, I think that Iger really has to take him under his wing, and like, this is the way we play the game. You
Mhm.
can't deter from, even if it's strictly business and
Right.
we're still going for the pockets.
Yeah.
It's got to be in this matter, which I think he can do.
Yeah.
Yep.
What were you gonna say?
No, I was looking at the Disney assembled of here. No more live action remakes. Bring back original storytelling, or make the right decisions about these movies. Because Steph was
Right.
immediately after is like this Hercules TikTok thing that was, of
Yeah.
course.
Yeah.
Like, we're going, what is all of this?
Right.
And when we talk a little bit about, we don't have to get into Disenchanted. We joked at the beginning here,
Mhm.
but there is this, right, the Last Jedi mentality of we're gonna tweak with what you thought were happy endings,
Yeah.
and put a twist on them.
Yeah.
And I like happy endings. It's Disney.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I just want to say that Theme Park Rob is over on TikTok, because I'm live on
Oh.
TikTok as well. He's over in the TikTok saying this has to be helping the mental health of most cast members right now.
Right,
And
and that's where you got to start, right?
Yep.
I mean, his email to everyone here. Let's see if I can pull that up momentarily. I think that's part of this CNBC article, which
Mhm.
is why I had it here. So I'll read that off. I say, share the screen. By goodness, share
Mhm.
the screen. Dear fellow employees and cast members, it is with an incredible sense of gratitude and humility, and I must admit a bit of amazement, that I write to you this evening with the news that I am returning to the Walt Disney Company as Chief Executive Officer. As we go down to the bottom here, I just want to say that I know this company has asked so much of you during the past 3 years, and these times certainly remain quite challenging. But as you have heard me say before, I am an optimist, and if I've learned one thing from my years at Disney, it is that even in the face of uncertainty, perhaps especially in the face of uncertainty, our employees and cast members achieve the impossible. Right? So he's going right for the base. He's going to build from the bottom up, and then he's going to go out, pull the audience back in.
Yeah.
Bob Chapek wouldn't have been able to show his face on the telecast of the Christmas party by the time. He's going to, Bob Iger will be on the Christmas parade, making us feel better.
Oh yeah,
100%.
for sure. And of course you see every type of opinion and feeling and conspiracy theory happening on Twitter right now. And, a lot of people going, what's the real story? Why was this announced on a Sunday night right before the holidays? Right, all this kind of stuff. And I'm sure there is more to the story, but I'm sure things have been in the works for a little bit to get this plan, and then would set it in motion and go, here's some money to you.
I think
because I
is it
see
the
that.
Times article, right? The Times article I think suggests that he was contacted on Thursday, and then I was like, oh, that's a quick turnaround,
Yeah.
but it's also a very bad week. Like it was a
Mm-hmm.
bad week, and it was like,
Uh-huh.
I love the late Friday afternoon news cycle because they bury stuff there so people forget about them by Monday morning.
Yeah.
Sunday night, waking up to it first thing Monday morning is awfully curious.
Yeah. Oh, for
Awfully
sure. And
curious.
I love how, last night as we were texting about this and going, I think we have to go live in the morning. I'm like, do we have to go live right now? Because I feel like this news is now old news. Because if you were not on Twitter last night and you're waking up to this, I'm like, you can't be retweeting this morning. It's getting buried. It's old news by now.
Lexi can't wait to read Iger's next book,
Yeah.
and he has been working on his new book during this time.
Mm-hmm.
This is an excellent chapter, don't you think? They could sell a lot of books.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Ryan saying, I'm sure the timing is stock price related. And that's true too. Like, we
Mhm.
got to start this new week. Let's go. Because we only have, this is things. We're going into Thanksgiving now. We got to make it look good. And we got to
Right.
get the numbers in the parks are going to be up. So we got to get this side up as well.
Mhm.
I will say, I know you mentioned my bestie, Josh Damaro, earlier. And I checking in on the stock
Checking in the
price.
stock.
And my bestie Josh Tomorrow and I have had extensive talks about all of this. In reality, I'm not naive that Josh Tomorrow is in the mix of that group at the top, right?
Right.
So will tweaks have to be made? Will he stay in his position? Will he be moved to it? What will happen with him will be very interesting as the time goes on. Because he can show face and because he does have a following, will Iger push him out there more to be the person communicating all the good things that are going on and
Right.
bringing in the positivity? You can't ignore the fact, regardless of whether you know or not that Josh Tomorrow is behind a lot of things. You can't ignore the fact that he's got a following and people love him and people
Mhm.
seek him out and people are
Mhm.
so excited to meet him, and he is personable and he will stop and talk to people. And that plays a big role, especially when now you got to go through some rebranding of a major company. And so do you keep him around just for that? I mean,
Right.
what will happen to him in his position will be interesting too.
Yeah, I think it's a big piece, and maybe not in year one, but maybe in year two, you might see that a little bit more of Iger's contract. And
Mhm.
he said he's extremely optimistic, Iger, for the future
Mhm.
of this great company, and thrilled to be asked by the board to return as CEO. Mr. Chapek did not respond to requests for comments, but just to, I think, go back to, also want to say, parks aside, I know we focus on the parks a lot
Mhm.
because of who we are, but Disney Plus is Iger's baby,
Yeah.
so that was a source of concern, and Iger is clearly confident he can also work that angle to get it back, because Iger's not coming back if he thinks it's going to fail. I mean, he's smart
Mhm.
enough to know that I'm not going on a sinking ship here. So he
Mhm.
must see something, and he must have a plan that
Yeah.
allows for things to turn around. I mean, Chapek did say Disney Plus would be in a better place by 2024.
Mhm.
But I think, people point to Iger, oh, the Fox deal was disastrous and everything else. I mean, I think there's maneuverability. There's so much. It's so vast that I
Mhm.
think Iger must see something that allows him to create an arc for himself for 2 years
Yeah.
and get the Disney to a place that is back to where it was probably in 1819.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I'm
Reading
Steffers
the
is
comments.
saying, I think it's all part of the plan, and Iger staying on the board is a huge deal, keeping him in everyone's back pocket. And yeah, to the point of how we're talking about the parks, and I see that a lot on Twitter as well, as to what will really be affected by this return. Will it be the studio and the streaming services and the movies? Will it be the parks? Is it going to be a little bit of everything? I mean, I think you can't ignore the parks. You have to do something there too, because that's where everyone's going. When you think Disney, you don't
Mhm.
necessarily go, oh, I wonder what the studio is doing. You think about the parks, and
Mhm.
that's like the face of the company. So I think you do have to do something there, while you got to be working on everything at this point. And to the point about the movies and the remakes, original storytelling would be nice again, because I do feel like they have been take Hocus Pocus 2, take Disenchanted, take, and they're just throwing things out there of these live actions, while it's like, how about some focus in some other areas?
Right, and let's talk about that for a second. Even with the live action remakes, that is play. They think they're playing to those of us who are nostalgic,
Yes,
and
yes.
unfortunately, to have nostalgia really hit, you gotta
Hmm.
have a heart, and you
Hmm.
gotta have a connection, right? And seeing the characters, seeing the Sanderson sisters, seeing the characters from like there's it's great to see these
Uh-huh.
characters again. But they have to be acting in a way that is, and being in their world of play
Hmm.
that pulls us back in. And I'm
Yeah.
sure it did for some people, but broadly, I don't think either. I mean, I think Hocus Pocus did huge streaming numbers, and I'm sure Disenchanted will do very well,
Hmm.
but they didn't have the same. Hocus Pocus didn't have a great box office back then.
Hmm.
It had a big cult following over
Hmm.
time. This the first Enchanted movie, it hit with a lot of people,
Hmm.
and I'm curious to see what the. I think people liked it, but I
Uh-huh.
think there's also something to be said of it can't just be a reboot for the sake of rebooting. There has to be a purpose. There has to be a way to connect. There has to be, and we don't have to, squash people's dreams of how the characters ended up with. I mean, I
Hmm.
think that's a big one to me. Is how they we're going to undo everything you thought about this happy ending, and so that bothered me a little bit about Enchanted,
Yeah.
and Disenchanted. Excuse me.
Get it right. This is a comment from earlier. I just wanted to bring up
Well,
again.
of course. I mean, again, it's a business. Iger wants
Hmm.
money. Iger wants more money for the company, so he
Hmm.
gets more money. So
Yep.
again, to that, listen. Is he in for it for his pocket? Of course, but he's only going to make more money if
Hmm.
Disney makes more money. So what if he can expand and grow that in a way that is perceived a little bit better?
Yeah.
Then it's only going to benefit him. In the end, it's got to benefit him. Why is he coming back if it's not going to
Hmm.
benefit him? It's got to
Yeah.
benefit him. He's
Yeah.
got to have. He wants to keep his public image,
Hmm.
which is, generally speaking, not just Disney insider
Hmm.
community speaking, excellent.
Yeah.
And he wants to preserve his legacy.
Yeah.
I mean, and I would say this is a calculated risk, but he must know something.
Right. Yeah. Oh, for sure. Because he's been, yes, he's been on the board, but he's been gone. And over these 2.5 years, people have just been hating on Chapek and building Iger up, whether he had flaws or not. It was like, oh, but when Iger was here, these things didn't happen, and all of that was going on. So, like, why come back into the mess
Hmm.
when you have that image, right? People are talking great about you, you're gone, you're out of it,
Yeah.
but like, yeah, he's got there's pieces of this puzzle and this chess game that's going on, that it'll be interesting as more news comes out, as more things get leaked, probably, and
Hmm.
more insider scoop, maybe.
Right. Oh, I mean, yeah, there's so much story to be
Hmm.
told, I think, behind the
Hmm.
scenes. And again, if Iger thought it might affect him negatively, then he's not doing this. So
Yeah.
whatever it is behind those scenes, it has to be put. Iger must be protecting himself at all costs.
Yeah.
Is how
Hmm.
how I think. But going back to we talked about it on the podcast last week. When we decided to record an extra half an hour because the original recording was already out of date,
Yeah.
but we were talking about how I'm not saying that like Genie Plus should happen like that
Uh-huh.
that that should exist for people, but the way they went about it was not correct. The timing of it was
Hmm.
not correct. How they approached the 50th anniversary of Walt Disney World, I think they missed. They missed
Yep.
over and over and over again,
Yes.
and went around it the wrong way. And the big thing that they were talking about with Disney Plus, as they were talking about the cutbacks and the layoffs, a lot of it had to do with the marketing of Disney Plus, which I don't know how much money you're putting into that marketing campaign, but it's horrible. It's
Mhm.
horrible. And that's when Lexi talks about right here that they're
Mhm.
dilloing Disney Plus releases like Zootopia Plus,
Yeah.
but they don't know it exists. I kind of feel that same way, which I thought was fantastic, which was the Baymax thing over the summer.
Mhm.
Like, that was a fantastic short series.
Yes.
And, for what? And th- their approach to marketing, if they're putting a lot of money into that marketing campaign, yeah, all that's the department I think has to be focused on,
Yeah.
besides PR, is the
Oh,
marketing and
yes. Oh,
how Disney
1000%.
is being pitched to us.
Yes,
We
for
just
sure.
can't rely on the old tropes anymore.
Yeah. And I was gonna touch on this, is that the Genie Plus pricing has gone up to $29 today.
Mhm.
Um,
Happy
and
Thanksgiving week, everybody.
yeah.
And we've talked about this before. I think maybe it was either on Steffer's podcast or when Steffer, whichever one it was, but I don't remember when. But
Mhm.
dynamic pricing exists, and we don't get mad about dynamic pricing because I feel like I live in the world of high prices here in New York
Yeah.
City. Broadway is dynamic pricing, Met Games are dynamic pricing,
Yeah.
like everything is dynamic pricing, and I hate it. But
Yeah.
it doesn't bother me because those models exist especially where I am.
Yeah.
So yeah, again, I think it's a business. It has to be what it is. How you're putting it together and
Mhm.
how you're not watching out for everybody else
Mhm.
is the thing. Because we're not gonna watch out for the little people,
Yeah.
if you want to phrase
Mhm.
it that way. And we're focusing on the people who have the money
Yeah.
or the credit card debt
Yeah.
to do this.
Yeah.
It's not a broad audience.
Mhm.
It's not. Yeah, you want the family of four from Denver to have the great time,
Yeah.
but then show it. Show how
Yeah.
you can do that. You
Yeah.
can't show me how the family of four from Denver can afford
Right. So John saying a projected cost during
it.
Christmas week, $35. Thanks for joining us, AJC Magic. Also, sorry, the chat's moving here.
Hmm.
Probably more for Christmas, New Year's week, right? I
Yep.
mean, and Stepher's making the point, along with those $189 tickets, one day, one park tickets to Magic Kingdom.
But if we were crazy enough to go Christmas week,
Mm-hmm.
which I don't think we are anymore,
No.
that at this point in like we don't, we're not gonna
Yeah.
put ourselves into that.
Yeah.
But yeah, do I want to save the time and the congestion in the lines by paying? I might, because
Right.
I want the time saved.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So I can see it from that point, dynamic pricing wise. I can see
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
This random, it's up and down. It's $109 for 3 days, during the year at Animal Kingdom. I don't know.
No comment. Become the AK haters. Yeah, I just feel like it's been an exhausting 2 weeks with Disney news. It is just nonstop, and a lot of it. I mean, this news kind of almost helps a little bit because we're not talking about the price of something specifically, even though of course it's all tied up into it, right? But the stock price already going up. I just feel like Chapek did not have a good reputation with the little people or on Wall Street or anywhere really.
Anywhere.
And
That's right.
anywhere.
With
And
cast members,
that's huge.
with the
Yeah.
governor of Florida,
Mhm,
with
mhm.
with
Yes.
whoever. And for better or for worse, if you want somebody who can play the game
Yeah.
politics wise, it's
Mhm.
Iger. Like,
Right.
Chapek was not going to be that guy. He misfired in the response. He misfired in the response. He misfired in the post response. All of
Yeah.
it was a mess.
Yeah.
During earlier this year. So I saw Ryan's comment earlier that I wanted to pull up. I get dynamic pricing, but they have to figure out a way to give people a heads up on the pricing, not just shock you at midnight when you go to purchase it.
Yeah.
100%.
Mhm.
Again, their approach, their communication, their and tell me why. Tell me why.
Mhm.
Like,
Yeah.
I know I know Christmas is busy. I know Thanksgiving week is busy.
Yeah.
But I also know that the second week of September is quiet. So tell me
Mhm.
why there's 3 different prices over the course of a week
Right.
in the second week of September. Why?
Mhm.
Why? I mean, because it's Saturday. Fine. Weekend price, weekday price.
Yeah.
4 days, one price. And, up and down and up and down and up and down. Why? Why is that?
Right. Yes.
That's a nickel and dime.
Yes, for sure. Daddy-O saying he doesn't think, prices will go backwards really.
Yep.
And no, I don't think so either. And it's gonna be rough, but maybe like at the very least, can we just stop raising prices for a little bit? Like just hold it right here. Figure out everything else before you start raising prices again, because I feel like it's just so much lately. There's literally everywhere at
Well,
this
and we
point.
talk about the overwhelming feeling, right? That like everything is overwhelming. 7 a.m. trying to book your stuff, overwhelming.
Yeah.
The prices on which days, overwhelming. 60 days in advance, overwhelming.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much. There's so much.
Yeah.
So I feel they have
Mm-hmm.
to also condense their models. I think the
Yeah.
prices have to exist,
Yeah.
but they have to find one consistent price. They gotta justify the cost. They gotta
Yeah.
tell me why.
Yes.
And they got to keep things consistent where they can.
Yes.
Like in October, there's no need to have a Magic Kingdom price, even at the low end of whatever the low, what was it, 139 was going to be their low end,
Yeah.
189 was the high end. But in October, then I'm just going to go to Not So Scary.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So why am I paying the same price, crazy price when I could just go to Not So Scary?
Right.
Keep it lower for half a day. The park is open at 5 o'clock on a
Yeah.
Not So Scary day. We were there. That was part of why we did a park hopper in August,
Right.
because it's a Not So Scary day. We don't have the park the full day, so now we got
Yeah.
a park hop.
Yep.
But
Yeah.
you can't have the price be $139 that day if it's open
Yeah.
at 5 o'clock.
Right.
You're not getting a full day.
Yep. Mm-hmm. We had discussed this point earlier, just that we are not naive to to
To
Josh
Josh.
tomorrow, and
Yeah.
we know that there is a group at the top, and a lot of the people in that group may need some tweaking or movement, or maybe exiting the company. We'll see what happens, but there's a lot that has to be reworked right now.
Yeah, I think the two, to me, the main from my side, the
Yeah.
main point about Josh tomorrow is I think he knew how to work in Bob Chapek's system really
Yeah.
well and Bob Iger's system really well.
Yeah.
And now Bob Iger has to kind of grab hold of him and say, this is the system that you have
Uh-huh.
to work in if you want to do more here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
him being in if he was the heir apparent to Bob Chapek, Josh,
Yeah.
like the rise he was on has a stumbling block now. He has to work on his image in the insider community,
Yeah.
I think, to then be able to take those reins. But
Yeah.
I think he knows how to play the game, Josh tomorrow.
Yes.
So now he's gonna go back to playing Iger's game, which is to
Yeah.
his benefit and his image.
Yeah.
You don't have to rewind and listen. We'll tell you
Yeah,
right now.
I was
We don't
just-
mind talking
yeah.
about this over and over again.
We can talk about it again. I was just summing up what we were saying. Yeah, and Disney Assembled saying, don't forget that Chapek was Iger's hand-picked successor. Is this all part of a larger Iger master plan? And that is a big theory amongst the community too, right? I mean, the pandemic was coming. Oh, I'm gonna go over here for a little bit. Let this guy do it, and then I'll come
Yeah.
swoop back in. Sure, that's possible. I think there's so much that has probably been going on in the Disney company as a whole in the last 2.5 years, which is why it has felt so chaotic. It's not one guy. Of course, it's not one guy.
Right.
But there's been so much chaos, and I think that tells a bigger story about the behind the scenes and the company as a whole during all of this. And I feel like, things going on in the world right now with big companies like Disney, like Twitter, like Facebook. I said to Mr. Snidillo the other day, I feel like all of these things will be case studies in college business classes at some point, right? I mean,
Right.
how do you not? These are huge companies, and there's so much going on, and a lot of it doesn't make sense to everyone watching, and everyone's like,
Yep.
what are these decisions being made? But I feel like at some point everyone will be sitting in business classes one day doing case studies on all of it.
Dr. Valas says, would they have renewed Bob Chapek's contract, though, if this was a plan? That's a lot of money they will lose, and only for a few months later. I think I mean, again, what's the story? But
Yeah.
to me, they were probably in a corner of like, what are we going to do? We got one way or the other. And I think maybe they thought they could still dig themselves out of it. And I think the fourth quarter really buried them.
Yeah.
And that was it. I mean, enough people were calling. People were, I guess, just Twitter was calling for it, but people were angry. But there wasn't enough, I don't think, to justify it back then.
Yeah.
I think we all knew the perception problems. I think we all knew he wasn't the right face for the company, but I don't think the numbers always tell the story.
Yeah.
And
Right.
I think you had a lot of numbers being thrown out all over the place last week. The stock, the revenue, the profit, the ticket prices. In the end, you're just throwing numbers out there that's going to tell the board the story that they need. I don't think they could tell that story in the summertime when it was time to extend the contract.
Yeah.
But I'm sure maybe they planted a seed and like, can we monitor this story so that when it comes around, we're paying attention.
Circle back to that. And this is what we all hope, right? This is what we hope for, is that there will be that balance that I think we didn't realize we were feeling while we were in it will be restored. That balance of, we are seeing these great things from Disney. We are feeling the Disney feels. We are in the parks and enjoying it, and everything is great, and the customer service and overflowing trash cans aren't a thing, and animatronics are working, and Disney movies are coming out, and everything is great. They're also raising these prices, and a lot of stuff is happening business-wise, but we don't really see a lot of that because we are the consumers, and we're not doing a case study on these businesses, so we don't need to know all of that. But everything looks great over here, and we're getting a great experience. Hopefully,
and whether it was the right thing to do, I'm not a business-minded person, so it's clearly we have not made money off this podcast ever. But the idea of when with Genie Plus and everything else going, raising the ticket price, like I said on the podcast last week, these are all things they could have done. They could have put into we're reopening. We've had a lot of losses. These are the steps we have to take in order to provide the experience that you all deserve. And returning to the parks, nobody was going to trust Bob Chapek saying those words. So it was only presented in this bottom line way. And it was a double whammy. But it's funny that you mentioned, talk about the balance here, because that's one thing that Jim Cramer said on that CNBC, and it's referenced in the New York Times article of, the balance sheet, Disney's balance sheet is the balance sheet from hell, numbers wise. And if that doesn't tell you everything you need to know about what's going on within the, what we feel in the parks, what we feel in our programming, everything else right now, right? I think I mentioned it a little bit last week. Everyone loves Andor right now. Does anybody pop culture, outside our thing, I don't know if anyone's talking about Andor right now. If the series is that great, shouldn't everyone be talking about this show?
Right.
Outside of the Disney Plus Star Wars fan base?
Yeah,
everyone loves it. Everyone.
Yeah. No, and that's a good point. Is you don't. Maybe The Mandalorian. Maybe that got that much hype, but you don't. If you are talking about
Mandalorian
shows
started under Iger's watch. Let's keep that in mind.
Right. And so you talk about shows like Ted Lasso or I don't know, a million shows that are coming to mind that are on specific streaming services or even specific networks.
The Crown. Yeah.
And yes, and you will hear about people talking about them across the board. I don't feel like you have that with Disney Plus. Is it just too early to have that? I don't know what it is, but it's true. I think you have to change perception of in terms of the streaming world. I think you have to change the perception that some people probably have when thinking Disney Plus of, oh, I don't have kids. Why do I need Disney Plus? Oh, I'm older. I don't need Disney Plus. Oh, I don't really like Disney movies. So why would I need Disney Plus?
Right.
You have to bring in some more of those people to go, hey, we are creating these original shows. We're creating these original movies, just like all the other streaming services. You need to bring in the audience that thinks they don't need it in their life and make them believe that they do because they're giving them something that they didn't know they wanted or needed. And I don't think there is enough of that. I think it is, you have the fan base of Disney and Star Wars and Marvel probably, but you don't have the people who are like, what do I need Disney Plus for? You have to show them why they need it.
Yeah, I don't know. It's all risk taking, right? Of like, I'm gonna put a bunch of money into promoting Andor solo, bet no pun intended, better than everything and more.
Yeah.
That you do the little bumpers, or it's calling, like, it's not just for Star Wars fans. It's for it's for anybody who thinks storytelling is lacking these things. Like, you need those kind of quotes that
Yeah.
like when the movie came out and you used to see the Roger Ebert says blah 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 blah. I feel like you need those things in order
Yeah.
to draw other people in. I'm not, and again, I'm not saying that's going to work or not. Maybe I'll DVR through, fast forward through commercials. Half of us are unplugged, so where are those
Yeah.
commercials really showing? But that part of it, that specificity, I think, is lacking. You just can't go, we're Star Wars, we're Marvel, we're Disney. Here we go.
Yeah.
Yeah, great, but I'm not into any of those things. What else you got?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think Disney does have to decide what's going where to draw the right people, right? So we're parents. So the
Mhm.
third season of Bluey was a very big deal in our households.
Mhm.
And that went straight to Disney Plus. Whereas now, if you go over to like the Disney Now app, it's over there and it's being called new episodes when it's like,
Right,
no, we've seen all of these. We saw them all
right.
when they came out originally. But I think, Disney does have an issue of what new, I've noticed that. Even like Spidey and His Amazing Friends or
Right.
Alice's Bake Shop or whatever those cartoons are. Some are new episodes over here, like Disney Now, and probably because I'm unplugged, I'm sure it's on Disney Junior and Disney Channel, but
Right.
it's not on Disney Plus. And it's like, well, why not keep it consistent across the way? Because now, if people do have both things, make them only need the one thing. They only need Disney Plus, and try to drive more people there. But it's interesting to see what is going where and why those decisions are being made. I mean, we've talked about Dancing with the Stars. I think
Mhm.
that was an attempt to get more people
Mhm.
over. I
Mhm.
don't know if
Right.
it's working or not. I
Right.
have no idea. I mean, it made me watch probably after 7 years of not watching Dancing with the Stars. That's
Right.
because I'm a professional podcaster and I need to report on these things. But I don't know if it's worked otherwise, and I guess we'll see next season if it's back to ABC or stays on Disney Plus. I don't know.
As we wind down here this hour, I'll read the last paragraph of the New York Times article, which is, relates to the theme parks. All the while,
Mhm.
some of Disney's most dedicated theme park customers have been growing indignant over price increases they see as nickel and diming. I mean, if the New York Times is saying it, it must be true.
Yeah.
Yeah. This summer, Disney told investors that theme park profits would have been even higher if not for an unfavorable attendance mix at Disney World, which annual pass holders took as an affront. T-shirts, mugs, and stickers began selling online bearing the word unfavorables in Disneyland's signature calligraphy. So again, in terms of how the paintbrush was
Mhm.
broadly stroked there, that is the state of how theme park guests, especially dedicated theme park guests,
Yeah.
whether it's annual, twice a year, annual pass holders, what have you, are feeling. And I get that they see it as, well, they're not, not paying the same amount of money.
Mhm.
They're we talked about it last week on Theme Park Thursday, the podcast. We talked about, oh yeah, if you're in the Northeast and we're like, I can't renew right now, and then haven't been able to renew,
Mhm.
get an annual pass for 3 years now or whatever. Yeah, Disney's looking at you like, no, we know you're a snowbird and you're gonna come down here and do 3 months and it's 120 days at $1,400. You're getting in for $10 a day.
Yep. Yep.
No, we don't want you here for $10 a day. We
Right.
want you here for $139 a day
Right.
at minimum,
Yeah.
except in the Animal Kingdom.
Not our choice. Not we didn't do that, everybody.
Disney did that.
Um Dr. Val saying, her mom struggles with media and with Dancing with the Stars. And that's what I was saying. I said there's a whole
Yeah.
generation where I think are Dancing with the Stars biggest fans, that probably you lost some of them while you were trying to bring in a new audience.
Yeah,
Because of that.
if Colbert went to a streaming service only right now, Mama Dilla wouldn't know what to do.
No, exactly. She would have no clue. I tell her about things. I'm like, you got to watch this show. It's on this. She's like, "Ugh, I don't. And she has all of my logins. on her.
We can't say
No, we
that. You
can't say that. Oh,
that.
I can't say that. No, she doesn't. She has her own. But she can't. She still won't like put them on. But yeah, and I get that too, right? And to Lewis's point, like you want them to only go to one place. No, but I feel like it's not clear. Again, the communication. It's not clear where things are going first, and where they're ending up, and all of that. So.
All right. Well,
sorry to hurt your brain, Steffers.
Well, yeah. I mean, there's a lot, and I mean, and this is right, and this is what now you're in another transition, so your brain is only gonna hurt more for a little bit here before there's light. The world ain't gonna brighten up here in 24 hours. It's a little bit better this morning, I think, because as perception goes, you see Iger instead of seeing Chapek. Most people, not Lewis, most people feel better about what they see as the person leading the charge now, and that will start. But everything else, all those things underneath that have fallen away, and we talked about on the podcast with it's not just Disney. Many companies discovered during the pandemic that they don't know what to do. They only know how to operate the same way. This is the way people don't know how to pivot. They don't know how to make changes. They're afraid of change. All these things. Lewis talked about in our Discord last night that this seems like a very fear-based choice. I think it was the only choice they could make. Fear or not, and probably some fear. This is the only choice they could have made without running Chapek for 3 more years and us being more aggravated.
But isn't this why you listen to Dillos Diz, to see our rants? Isn't this what it is? What would we rant about if not all of this today?
I love you being here, AJC Magic TV. I would say in-state AP holders may spend less money, but being an out-of-state AP holder, I spend more money. Yes, but I would, I think we talked about this on our podcast last week, and it's just that idea of now my in-laws are not they don't go to Disney or anything like that, but they go down to Florida and they spend 2 weeks in Kissimmee. And even if they just went to Disney every day for those 2 weeks because they had pass holders, they're making out like bandits on park admission. And that's, I feel like, what Disney sees sometimes, blindly or not, instead of, I'm going to buy a meal. I'm going to buy, they're going to still spend money at the end of the day. They're just not spending that park admission money.
Yeah, sure.
Yes, Jen, you got any comments in there before we wrap things up?
I mean, I figured before we wrap, since we haven't been live on YouTube in a while, I'd just like to remind maybe some that aren't familiar with us that we do a podcast every Thursday called Theme Park Thursday with Dillos Diz. Catch it on all your favorite podcatchers. We're on TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook at Dillos Diz. Oh, look at all the things. Patreon, DillosDizResort.com. We do go live there every Thursday on applicable
Thursday.
Applicable or applicable?
I like saying applicable. I don't know.
Okay. I don't know. Maybe I'm saying wrong. So, all the things there, but it was nice to get back on the YouTubes we have to go big with the big news.
We had to go big or go home with the whole story here. Yes. I like how it goes across the blue line only at the end.
Oh, yeah, that's nice.
Because it's kind
blue and blue.
Oh, see, it was as if Mr. Snidilla was thinking of it when he created this. But thanks for checking us out this morning. You'll probably end up seeing this audio drop into our podcast feed at some point this week. Jen is craftily trying to put together our Dillos Diz Resort tangent discussion last week that will drop for your travels on Thanksgiving on Wednesday, when we'll tag our previous Palo conversation that we did at DillosDizResort.com, and that will be the Wednesday drop somewhere in there. Jen now has 2 days to edit it.
I'm doing it today.
She's doing it today, she says. But thanks for joining us here. If you haven't subscribed and you watch this whole live stream later in the time, just hit the sub, tell people, tell your friends that we're here. Do the whole thing, like it now while you still have a chance. But I'm sure we'll be monitoring this ongoing story over the next several weeks. Thanks for joining us, everyone. Until next time, she's Jen. Well, you on the other side? Did I?
Because when I went out and I came back.
Oh, you went out and you came back.
Yeah.
I only noticed that now. 59 minutes and 24 seconds in.
Right.
Bye-bye.
Deuces.